Cashmaniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
Welcome to GeoGearHeads episode 209, our 41st randomized show. We've got a huge panel of our patrons joining us tonight to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, especially kicking it off with a bunch of stuff that you guys submitted. But I'm Daryl W4, and with me as usual is the Bad Cop.
Well, thank you, Daryl. You know, this is a very different episode than we normally have. If this is the first time you're joining us for GeoGearHeads, normally we talk about geocaching, geolocation, games with, an individual or two. Here, we're doing something special for the last show of 2015. We've got a whole list of people that have joined us, and I think the easiest way is to have them introduce themselves. So, gentlemen, why don't we go in almost alphabetical order, if you will, by geocaching name. Tell us your geocaching name and, what part of the world you happen to be in at this moment.
All right, I guess that'll be me. I'm a Carry Killer, or Adam Dimshar. I am in Statesboro, Georgia right now. I've been caching for about 2.5 years and just hit 1,600 finds.
Wow, that's impressive. Sorry, I'll leave comments until the end.
All right, so Limax, you're up next.
Oh yeah, this is Limax, also known as Doug Jones. I'm out here in California, where it's still 2015. Actually been caching since January of 2004, although I just passed 1,700 finds earlier this month.
Yeah, so let's get our preview of 2016.
Hi, this is Edwin. I'm from, geocaching name is Mavetje. I've heard some interesting ways it gets mutilated here, and well, nobody seems to understand how it is properly pronounced. I've been geocaching for nearly 2 years. I've heard it from friends in the Netherlands. I'm living in Australia now. I've never done it in the Netherlands. I've only done it in Australia. I'm active within the normal Groundspeak geocaching.com website and on the Geocaching Australia group.
Which, as I understand it, is pretty mandatory if you're in Australia.
In Australia, everything is either compulsory or forbidden, and it wasn't forbidden, so it must have been compulsory.
I love that.
So let's move on to Subway Mark, which most of our long-term listeners will recognize has been on the show a couple of times before.
Yep, I'm Subway Mark, a.k.a. Mark Kavanaugh, and I'm here in Oregon. I believe it's still 2015, although, Oregon is weird because of Portland, so it could be, 1967 for all I know.
And finally, on the alphabetical list, another name that most of our longtime listeners will remember, the Wooden Radio.
Well, good evening. It's Mike, the Wooden Radio. Yeah, my real name's the Wooden Radio. Mom would have called me Mike. About 2 months ago, reached 3,000. In 2016, well, has anybody gotten the email from Facebook of welcome to, we've been friends for 46 years?
My nephew got that today.
You know why?
Leap year?
No, the Unix clock started 46 years ago.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, all right. So that's our panel for this show, and we've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about tonight, especially what people want from geocaching.com. Before we get to that, though, we do have a live question since it's a randomized show. And you guys who are joining us on the panel are welcome to participate as well. And you're playing today for this Planisphere Southern Hemisphere Geocoin from coinsandpins.com. So all you need to do is send an email to geogearheads@cashmaniacs.com with the title Randomize 41 and answer the question as to what was the first episode of 2015. And we'll give you a little clue. That was episode 157 on 3D printed caches.
What was
Actually, our
the first
second one.
GeoGearHeads episode of 2015?
What was that?
What's the first GeoGearHeads episode of 2015? We want to be specific.
Yes. Yes. Good point. Good point. Well, that was only on the 3rd, so that probably would have qualified.
Well, there you go.
But as I mentioned before, we do have. Oh, and I should say you have to have those questions into us by 9:45 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 6:45 p.m. Pacific Time to be in that drawing. But we did, as I mentioned before, have a question that we asked last week, the last of our weekly questions, and we wanted to know something a little bit different and more interesting for this last weekly question. So, Carrot Killer, why don't you tell us what we had asked?
No problem. So we asked for one thing you'd like to see change most at geocaching.com.
And we got a whole bunch of answers on that one, and we're going to cover probably not all of them tonight, but certainly a good portion. So, Subway Mark, who won the drawing, though?
Yeah, there can only be one winner, and that would be GeoGuy.
Congratulations, and we'll get that email out to you finding out what of those prizes from coinsandpins.com you want. I'm a little behind as well. But, Chris, why don't you read what he wants in 2016 or from geocaching.com?
Come, sit on the bad cop's lap. Tell me what you want from geocaching.com. That's a little creepy, isn't it? Okay.
That's very creepy.
Yeah, I should rehearse these things before I say them out loud. They sound okay in my head.
As long as you're not Scrooge today.
Oh, I am pretty much lived Scrooge. So, GeoGuy wrote, he said, a feature I'd like to see for premium members is an audit log for all caches you own, not just the premium member only. It's fun to see who's been looking at them.
You know, I like the idea of that, but I wonder, and I haven't played with this at all yet, and I don't think I have any premium member-only caches left. But what happens with API hits and with the apps in general? Do they even show up on that list?
Good point. I have no idea.
So I'm not really sure.
From this panel today that the API is closed. If you're not in, it's too late.
Yep.
So,
I wonder if they can reopen it at some point.
Are pinging the API. So that was new to me.
I wonder if they're going to reopen it at some point.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about that a little later when we get to that feedback. But my thought with this is if it's not doing the page load through the web browser, is it actually logging it? Because the API is pulling it more like the Pocket Query engine would. So you probably don't want that to show that you visited that page. You'd end up with a bunch of hits that you didn't actually visit.
Yeah, so every time you went to refresh a log from GSAC, for instance, it hit it through the API. Would that be a page count?
Exactly. That's what It would be maybe possible to do something with only when you hit the description does it count it, but yeah, I don't really know. But I just don't know that the audit log is going to be relevant in the world of the API. But I certainly like to see who's visiting the caches. And another question is whether Groundspeak's going to want that information that available after people in the UK and some others as well. But there was a good account about someone stealing caches in the UK, and they tracked him down by the logs on the premium caches.
Oh, interesting.
Do they? Groundspeak, I don't think, wants people going out on their own to do that.
You don't want rogue geocachers going after?
You don't want a geocaching lynch mob.
I am the bad cop. Can I lead the geocaching mob?
You probably could.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to more feedback from Shermanator18. The feature I'd like to see added to the geocaching.com would be to be able to map a set of caches that you have on a bookmark list. I know that Project GC does this, but I really wish geocaching.com did it. And Susan225 had a similar thought. I would like to be able to see a bookmark list as a map in addition to a list without making a pocket query. It would be easier to edit my lists if I could see where they were on a route or in relation to each other. I think making a pocket query is cumbersome, just my 2 cents. And of course she's right that the pocket query is your workaround for that right now. But that's something I've long wanted to be able to do, is pull up the map with the list and have it come up with a whole nice interface down the side of the caches and let you, maybe even do like add and remove with some drags or something. That would be really cool. But even just doing the mapping with the list on the side like they do for pocket queries would be a really, really nice feature.
It would be nice if the lists and the pocket queries would have the same kind of output. Because at this moment, you have pocket queries which you can view on a map. You have and if you see them as a list, you have the favorites and all the data in it. If you have them as a list, you can't put them on the map. You can't see the favorite points, etc. It's just an interesting feature added by two different people, most likely, who didn't want to share the code.
Well, I have the feeling this goes back to the problem that they've been having for probably about the last 8 years, where they were talking way back then about we just have to really go and rebuild everything from the ground up. This was all code that Jeremy had done as a hobbyist, and it's just not scalable, and we're having all these problems. So that's a lot of what you were seeing is trying to rewrite the underlying foundation. And in this case, I think he's actually going and rewriting bits of code rather than sharing stuff for the different features. We need a bookmark feature. I have to create this whole thing. Maybe he copied and pasted code, but it's not shared, so he has to go back and rewrite that feature from scratch to make it look like everything else.
Amen.
So hopefully that's on the list of stuff to be done soon. Okay.
Okay.
We have some feedback from Coons and Bud, who wants to read that one?
I'll read that one. I would like to have a feature from Project GC of a challenge checker added.
I really like that idea, but again, I don't know that that's something that Groundspeak wants to tackle. Anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Well, didn't they have in their survey something about a challenge checker when they did that long survey, last month?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. I think that could be something that they'd have to job out to a third party, but what I really like the idea of is having a challenge checker built into the site, and this is something that they're not going to be able to do with any kind of speed. But imagine being able to have caches check themselves for you, so when you do a search, if you don't qualify, it just tells you the cache is there, not with the exact coordinates, kind of like it does for premium caches to non-premium members. And then if you qualify, it will show you the cache. And similarly for doing logging. And the logging would probably be the first step because that would be a lot easier. But how cool would it be to have that kind of feature where if you click through, it will tell you what you need to do it, but you could have then a filter in your app that says don't show me caches that I don't qualify for.
Well, you can log or you can find caches you're not qualified for yet, just not officially log them.
Right, and that's kind of what I'm suggesting is if they did something like that, because they've had a lot of arguments over whether someone can log the cache because they found it or not, because a challenge is additional logging requirements if it's at those posted coords.
Yeah, but you need the coordinates to go find it. Now you may be in an area which you don't normally visit and say, oh, there's a challenge cache, let me go home and then find out whether I can go ahead and find it. So you need to have the coordinates.
Right, and that's the other argument against doing the hidden location. But yeah, even if they could do the, you can't log it, I think that would make a lot of people happy.
Yeah.
All right, so next one is from Lafitte FL. Chris,
Can I take that one?
Oh, go ahead.
I just want to take it because I actually run into this guy quite a bit.
So do your best impression of Lafitte FL.
Well, what I'm going to say, if you've never seen this guy, he has pretty much the most magnificent mustache you'll ever come across. Alright, so Lafayette FL said, the one thing I'd currently like from geocaching.com is the return of challenge caches. I'd like to see them return with their own icon and preferably with the challenge checkers available.
I can't argue with that. I'd like the same thing.
Well, in judging, reading between the lines and hearing a little bit from the official Groundspeak guys, it kind of sounds like he might not be too far off with the icon, because I really get the impression that that's kind of what they're thinking at this point is what they're going to do, and I'd like that idea as long as they didn't change the existing ones, because I think that would be a problem, and maybe they have a migration so that you have to relist the cache or something so it won't screw up anyone's stats.
Yeah, that was the only thing that I saw, is the fact that, they're trying to do this so far down the line at this point that anything they try to do to change it is probably going to make a mess no matter what they do.
Right. You're going to pretty much have to lock in what's already there at some point and then say maybe, okay, all challenges have to be converted on, we'll say, January 1st of 2017, register your challenge cache and it will automatically be converted or something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's some additional restrictions that come on at that point as well, because they've been asking a bunch of questions about the overly challenging and the confusing challenge caches. So, and that's one of the complaints I hear a lot of the time is you have a lot of ridiculous challenge caches that people just don't even want to try for.
Exactly. You get one. I agree with the fact that if you place a challenge cache, you should be able to qualify for it.
I agree with that. Yep.
So okay. So maybe I'm unique in the fact that I've found, 13 icons in 23 minutes. Okay. Okay, I didn't. But
fancy.
It's an impossibility. But if I can say yes, I qualify for it, then it is possible for somebody else to do it.
Very true. Very true. But I think at that point you also would have a bunch of challenge caches that didn't get placed, particularly like the Delorme challenge. If a new Atlas comes out, or a new Almanac rather comes out, you might not have completed one page or something. So that's, I think, why they have the demonstrate the ability to complete it, is because there are some of those that maybe off of a new set of instructions that can't be met quickly enough.
I've only hidden one challenge cache myself, and actually the reviewer made me show him my proof that I had finished the challenge before he would publish it.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon either from what I hear. Is this has been one of the problems with the challenge caches. It's dependent on the reviewer what gets through.
Interesting.
Wow. There was something but the whole thing is it's supposed to be a challenge. It's not something which you'll be doing in the afternoon, because it would be a puzzle cache. The challenge is something which you do over a long time. Here in the area there is one we're saying from find one cache in all the suburbs in the greater land local area command, which means from you have to go about 25 suburbs. And yes, I still haven't found one in one of the suburbs. There's a challenge cache here we're saying from find one in so they put the locations from where the two people were coming from. Find one in Sydney and find one in Perth. It's 4,000 kilometers the other side of this continent. But yeah, no, you know from if you are ever coming in Perth, then you log one there. Then you know you've come to the challenge. It's not something you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do in the afternoon. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a challenge.
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of the problem with the challenge caches has been they're just listed as puzzles right now. So that's really confusing, and by giving it that icon, it gives you the ability to filter it out if you're just looking for stuff that you can do today.
Yeah.
Yeah, challenge is, something you really have to work to get.
Yeah, it's just another type of geocache, something that is a goal to work toward. So, I really hope that they keep them around because it is one of those aspirational things like the Fizzy Challenge. Look how many people are really working to fill in their Fizzy grids.
Somebody mentioned the Delorme.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned Delorme. We've got one grid on the Delorme Challenge here in Maryland, Delaware, that you don't have to get. Because there's only one cache in that square, and it's a 3-hour ferry boat ride each way to get it.
Wow.
But there's a cache there. I think you should have to go get it. I am the guy.
I was there with the iPhone and no cell coverage, so I put it in airplane mode and then found out the GPS was turned off. And no matter where I went, it was 380 feet from where I was. And only when I got back to the hotel, after a 2-hour kayak paddle, did I realize, oh, damn.
Ouch.
Wow. All right, Chris, you want to get us into the next batch of wishes?
Wishes from Excalibur. There was a couple of R's, so I put the extra R's in there. I'd like geocaching.com to add the ability to do a search in a radius in the hundreds of miles, not just 30 miles. It would be helpful when looking for very specific types of caches.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I commute 50 miles every day, so one way. So 30 miles is not enough for me. And then when I go traveling, I like to look for events and stuff like that. So I wind up using the old search engine as opposed to the new search engine because it's just kind of useless for me.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm actually the same way. Back when I used to commute 35 miles each direction, that new search would just not do me any bit of good whatsoever. I still have my old cache along a route pocket query, and I still keep it up to date.
Yep.
Well,
What I've done is on Project GC, you can say from give me all the pocket queries I need to enter to get all the caches from one state. And yes, there are 15 pocket queries for New South Wales, but it gives me everything. And I refresh it once every 3 or 4 months. I have them if I go somewhere, and I have the data if I need it.
Right. Well, and the pocket queries have been used for that advanced search feature for so long that a lot of us are used to doing that. But it is more cumbersome than just using that new search feature, and that's actually what the next comment is getting into, I think.
Well, for that, I end up using GSAC. It gives me, because around here in the central Maryland area, probably same around Seattle or Detroit, if you go out more than, say, 30 miles, you're going to have thousands of caches.
Oh, yeah. Mine is thousands of caches that I haven't found within something like a 11 or 12 mile radius. So I can't even get all 30-mile radius on a pocket query.
Thousands?
Yeah. And well, we've got like Redford out here, which is probably the maximum density of caches that you can possibly fit into that area.
Wow.
Yeah, we're
Sounds
pretty
like-
dense out here, but not that dense.
It's a different kind of dense. For California.
But Johnny B. Good 9 wrote that I would most like to see at geocaching.com the continued development of the search feature, particularly the 30-mile radius limit. Searching for caches for the Fizzy Challenge is impossible in my area with a 30-mile limit. Also, being able to download a GPX file of the search would be very beneficial. So he's getting into what we were just talking about. And if I remember when we talked about the advanced search feature with the new search feature with Groundspeak, they were talking that is their ultimate goal, is to have the GPX files generated from those lists and be able to save the searches and use that as the new pocket query. And they were kind of talking about eliminating the pocket queries, which I think gives them a financial incentive to do so. They don't have to carry those servers anymore.
I don't know. I
That's
still
interesting,
enjoy.
I think.
Go ahead.
It's an interesting thing if they're going to drop pocket queries, because at this moment that's the only way to get data out of them, which you can use for if you want to use it on non-website things, on their non-website thing.
Right. Well, they're not talking about eliminating the GPX files. They're talking about eliminating the pocket query engine as it is right now. And you might not have had it being only 2 years in. But Chris, do you remember when we used to have the option to download the list of caches as a GPX file? Just from a regular search?
Yeah, just the list.
And I don't remember when that disappeared.
Well, I never used it, so
I never used it either.
the fact that it disappeared didn't break my heart.
Well,
it didn't even pop up on my radar, to be honest with you.
Well, I think what happened, I used it sometimes, but not all that frequently. And I think it was right about the time when they stopped letting you download the GPX file from your own non-published cache. Because at this point, you can't download a GPX file from your own cache that has not been published. And that's a big issue for people doing the events. Like tomorrow, we've got 235 caches that are going to be published, and they had to copy and paste into GSAC to make that file.
That's a serious event.
Yeah, this is actually scaled back cache-wise. Normally they're close to 300, either above or below. I think last year we had like 318 caches.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a major undertaking to put those files together.
I want to come to you.
Hey, you're welcome. They do it every year. And I've got my first Intercache going live tomorrow for that event.
Excellent. Intercaches are a lot of fun. I've only done the one that we've got out here, and the same guy also did one of the mob caches out here at the same time in a different area. But so I've done both of those types. But getting back to pocket queries, that is a premium member only feature. So if they're going to make that part of the search, does that mean everybody will be able to do that? Are we losing some benefit of being a premium member?
No, they had it always that you could download the LOC files from like individual caches, but the GPX file was only for the premium members. And when they had that list download, it was the same way. You could download the GPX only as a premium member.
Okay, I know pocket queries are premium only. So.
Right. And that all ties into, they've done all along, GPX was only available to premium members.
Well, I like I get the whole state by doing 10 downloads. I do that about once a month, and then just update the last the last one frequently.
Yeah. Bryling had said, I want the ability to create GPX file from the new search results screen, which we've been talking about. A fish out of water, the top feature I'd like to see added to geocaching.com is to be able to create a GPX file of the results of or a subset of a search. I never understood why this already wasn't possible, and that's what we've just been talking about. It had been, and then they took the feature away, probably because they had to change something, and it wouldn't work anymore if they left it. So what's the point of having a feature that didn't work? But Wooden Radio, Startcacher is getting into something I think that you'd kind of really appreciate. And he says, my desired feature for pocket queries have an optional coordinate limitation. That is, latitude less than greater than between specific values, and same for the longitude. It would help eliminate overlapping queries with duplicate caches and increasing the number of caches, unique caches that you can return. And by doing that, I see it being a square instead of a circle, and that would be the first way that I think that would really help, is by having those squares, you can hit those edges and just stack them instead of having to overlap all these weird circles.
That would be good for rectangular states, but not for something like Maryland.
No, but if you have to do a bunch of pocket queries anyway, you could stack the pocket queries and get more logical connections, and you don't have to download as many caches that are going to get thrown out because it's just hard limits.
No, I get my date limits from Project GC or GC Project, whatever it is.
Project-GC.
Yeah, and I get the date limits, and I set up 10. It turns out for Maryland it's 10. We only have less than 10,000. So I'll go from February 1st, 1900 to whenever the first 900 are, and it stacks them that way. So my latest one, my Maryland-10 as I download, is only the newest caches. And I load them all into GSAC.
I just looked it up, 22 pocket queries for what I would call the greater Bay Area. It's probably about a 50-mile radius in all directions to my area. 22 pocket queries, 1,000 caches in each one, and or is it 10? Whatever the limit is, it's 1,000, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Out of that, I get an effective amount of about 15 to 17,000 because of overlaps.
And those are caches you haven't found yet, so you need to get going.
I got quite a bit.
Okay.
All right, Kelly, you want to move on to your feature that you requested?
Sure, I'll go ahead and paraphrase myself. So, what I'd like to see is an official FTF stat. I'd like for you to be able to, I guess, receive an FTF token or something from the owner, and let it be an official stat, because most people, or a lot of people, take it seriously. And also, I'd written, basically, why can't geocaching.com incorporate everything that you have to go to all these other sites for, like Project-GC or GeoCheckers? A lot of people on here were talking about how the search issues on Project-GC, you can do your custom searches and create your own custom GPXs. Why can't geocaching.com do that?
Yeah, on the first one, the FTF is something Groundspeak really hasn't been willing to weigh in on, and yeah, I think some of that is the issues around validation. So my question is, could we do something like a code that the cache owner puts with the cache, a unique code that's generated for each new cache, and have them claim that as the validation that you did it, and that way you could have more than one person use that same code, for those group FTFs.
Oh, okay. Well, so it still won't stop cheating. I mean, the cache owner could say, "Here, you're my good friend. Here's the code. You claim FTF."
Right. Well, I wouldn't necessarily even call some of that cheating, because you'll get some of those caches that are published intended to be a first to find for someone's 2,000th find or something like that.
Did you do that for me, Darryl?
I did not.
I'm only 10 away.
Oh. Hey, I'm totally changing subjects. I just hit 7,000 during geocaching day.
Sweet.
I think I watched you DNF 7,000.
Yeah, you probably did, because we went to the one that we thought was going to be 7,000, and it was determined it wasn't there. So we did find 7,000, like not even a quarter mile away. And Jesse also hit 7,000. So all of that stuff was on Periscope and is now gone. I don't see it anymore.
Gone forever.
Well, Scott was talking about some of it, I know, on the geocaching podcast.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. If anyone wants to find out more about Geocaching Day, they did do a whole episode about what it is, and they talked a little bit about it on the last episode. So yeah, the rest of the stuff, there's been a few people suggested that they just buy Project GC and incorporate the features. Yeah, that's not such a bad idea, but I don't think they're going to do that simply because the effort at Groundspeak seems to be in making it a lower barrier of entry. They're not really interested in catering to the power users, a power cacher type of stuff. That's not their focus. So they're happy to leave that stuff to all of these other people who can respond quicker than they could. Look how long it takes for something like geocaching.com, who's got tens of employees and millions of users, to get something installed and implemented. By having it in something smaller like Project GC, they're more responsive and they can deal with a few thousand people instead of millions of people, and it's only the people that really want that stuff and are more willing to take the time to learn how to use it, and who are actually driving the things like the first to finds or the how many icons in a day. That's not stuff that Groundspeak had really thought people would be interested in.
May I interject?
Absolutely.
The only thing I would say to that is, you say they want to cater to the casual user, but who's more likely to spend money?
Oh, no doubt. They're more intense cachers are the ones who are definitely laying down the $30 a year for the premium memberships, spending the money on the merchandise and that kind of thing. But I think I don't think that they're necessarily saying we're not important, because they certainly are, and that's what the challenges are all about. And we may see more attention paid to the more serious cachers with the challenges being reviewed right now, because that's a lot of what this stuff goes into, is those challenges. But the first to find stuff, that's something they've just never tackled, and I think that's because they don't want to get into how to deal with a validation. Because if they started tracking it, it becomes an issue, where it isn't an issue if people are just claiming, oh, well, I got a first to find. Well, okay, fine. That's not an official Groundspeak stat. Things get a lot more complex when it's geocaching.com doing it than when it's something that's happening outside of their system.
And, at work, I often tell people, why do we want this system that is so all-encompassing when, we're looking to do charts? Excel does charts really well. Why do we have to rebuild that engine? So, Project GC does some of those things really well. Do you want, geocaching.com to rebuild that engine and have problems with it?
Well, and let's take a look at the site that they had purchased to provide stats for them, and that's why we actually have stats, is because they acquired it and brought it in-house. And in the process, we lost some of the information that we used to have, and we lost a lot of the flexibility that was once there. Again, I think it's because they have to build it for the masses, not just for those premium users. So by having these power tools, I think we're really better served. But I'd like to see some of that core stuff, like FTFs, be recognized somehow, so that we can have that official repository, even if it's not accessible there, just so that's the official stat. However, I understand why they're not getting into that because of the issues with mediating who is the actual first to find.
Yeah, I was on a first to find, a night multi first to find. I think there were 40 of us.
Jeez.
Well, and there are some people who say that that's not a first to find because only one person can get to first to find. As far as I'm concerned, whoever's there to sign the log at first gets it, and most of us that I know of are group cachers more than they are solo cachers. So if you're in a group of 40 people, who would get the first to find? I mean, that makes no sense trying to figure it out because you're all there, you're all doing it.
Well, this one was needed to be 2 people. It was a night cache. The coordinates for was a push button on a tree, and the push button would light a cache on a light on a cache about 100 feet away. So it really needed 2 people as a team.
All that much more reason to not limit it, wouldn't it? All right, well, let's move on to Team Pugach, who said, I would like to see geocaching.com add the feature to post new hides from the smartphone app in addition to the website.
I mean, a lot of new cachers are only using their phone.
Well, and that's I think his argument is that so many people who really aren't using the computer anymore.
Yep.
How are you going to do a laptop, or how are you going to do a cache submission if you don't have a desktop, laptop, or whatever? But I think the whole thing from talking with the guys at Groundspeak years ago has been the problems that everyone complains about with people who use iPhones to place caches, or even to find caches in some cases, with the poor accuracy. You're not going to get good accuracy if you're just going to turn it on, flash open the app, and hide it. So I think the solution for that kind of stuff is simply make sure that if they're going to be hiding from the phone, get the good reading, have the app open, mark the waypoint, make sure that you're getting the number of averages and you're getting the coordinates close enough to each other in those, do that whole thing and make sure you have good chords, but then you still run into the issue of people not doing such a good job necessarily filling in the cache page. But even if you could go and do the base submission from there and then have to go back and submit from a web page, that would be a lot easier, I think, than just doing it web only. Garrett, did you have something you wanted to say, though? Nope. Okay. I thought I saw you.
Do you sometimes get emails where it has a signature that says, sorry for the brevity. I'm sending this from a mobile device.
Right.
If people are not able to enter proper emails, more than one line of email, because they go from, this keyboard is too small, how do you ever think they're going to enter a long description and a cache description and maybe a hint on it?
Right, and that's why I was thinking maybe...
What they're looking for is be able to mark a location, and then so that you have the coordinates, and later on you can then just say these are the coordinates, and then move it towards the website on your how do you call it, on your tablet or on your desktop.
Right.
And
well, but that's kind of the problem that he's getting at, is a lot of people don't have anything more than their phone now.
And the geocache.
I find it hard to believe that people who are geocaching with the geocaching app, which you can see only three caches without using a website on it.
Well, you don't necessarily use the geocaching app. You could be using someone else's app. But the problem is a number of the cachers around here that I've talked with, instead of getting new laptops or computers when theirs have died, they've just said, you know what, I don't even use it anymore. I'm using the phone for most of the stuff, so I'm just going to try using the phone. Some of them are going to a tablet, but not many of them.
Okay.
especially the people who are into like the notes. I know a lot of people who are note users where that is their only device now. They don't have anything else, which just boggles my mind that you could do that. But the fact is, there are a lot of people who are getting into that now. So I think this is going to be a problem because it's not. All they really need to do, I think, though, is make the the submission pages, responsive. If they did that so that it would work right on a mobile device, then I don't think that would be as much of an issue.
Well, I don't know about other iPhone and other phones, but the iPhone, I don't know about an app on there, and I don't know many of them that do take averages.
Geosphere does averaging, and I don't know because I haven't used it in a while.
Okay.
But what was Chris? Help me out here. There was that GPS app that we had played with years and years ago. It just basically replaces the functionality with the GPS, did the track files, everything else. Motion X.
I was just about to ask him his Motion X. I still have that on my GPS.
Yeah, I have that.
Yeah.
But I haven't used it, so I want to go back and play with that again because there was a couple of other things recently that I thought, it would be handy to have this. And it used to do averaging.
Maybe not this.
Okay.
So there are apps that do that. I want to say that CacheSense and CGeo on Android also do that.
I know on iOS there is an averaging app, an app just to average location.
Yeah, there is that as well. And it's not hard to average apps. I mean, average coordinates. It's, you take a few readings at a certain interval and just compare them. And even better than that would be to do some kind of weighted average so that you take the coordinates that come in over those intervals, and if your first one or two are way off, kill those. Just throw those out, because especially if someone is just doing a warm start, you're going to get a couple of bad reads most likely. So that's why I think that's going to be important if someone wants to do averaging for do positioning of the cache from the app.
Well, that means they have to find a different app to do it.
Right. Well, and that's what if they're going to be building it into the app, which is what Team Pugash is kind of asking for. Well, not kind of. He is asking for. If they're going to be doing that, I think they have to do it with that averaging. It'd have to be more like a wizard, I think, and step it through. Okay, where do you want to put the cache? Okay, here it is. Fine. Here's your averaging. And even what I really like about doing this, though, imagine how much easier it would be if you were somewhere and said, hey, this is a great spot for a cache. I want to put a cache here. Average it out, and it could pop up. No, sorry, there's another final near here that isn't going to work.
That would be nice.
So, I'd love to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't tell you what or where.
Right.
Would it say it's west of here or east of here? So you could say, well, if I move it, 10 feet this way, does it work? Or just trial and error. What would be your vision there, Daryl?
Yeah, that's the problem. Is right now they don't really give you any indication, but maybe they would say something about there's another cache nearby. Move to the west or something like that.
Well,
they could do like a green area. Move this way because it's all inside the app. On the map.
Geosphere has the tenth of a mile circles.
Right. But the problem is those multis that you don't have the extra coordinates for, or the puzzles that you don't have solved.
Well, they're okay.
Well, I've run into a number of my attempts at cache placements that have been rejected because I was too close. I had one where he said, almost on top of the other cache. I still haven't found that cache, by the way. But
I got a question though. How many new caches do you think you're going to see that are 15 or 20 feet, which is really fairly close, but they're in the middle of the parking lot rather than over in the woods because people are going to sit in their car and average it out?
That could be a problem, but I don't think geocachers are going to be doing that. you might get some of the newer cachers trying that, but I don't think the more serious, experienced cachers would even try that.
Right. Well, they would be doing it from their iPhone anyway. Then they'd use their 62 or 64 or Oregon or whatever.
I don't know about that because there are so many cachers now who don't have a GPS. They're just on their iPhones or Android phones.
Well, if the coordinates are 20 or 30 meters off, the first 3 people who find it finally, they will say, "Oh, this is way too much off the other coordinates. I find it," and either up to the cache owner to fix it then, or 2 people to read the logs. With the last 5 logs you get anyway. I've found it to be a self-healing situation. I've had a couple where I found it way much off of the coordinates, and I went from, well, let me put in the right coordinates, and the cache owners put these coordinates after that in their overview.
Yeah. All right. I would say I don't think we're going to see anything like this though, because they're still so busy trying to build the intro app into the app that actually would replace the premium app. And they're going to be probably at least 6 months before they're anywhere close to having that ready at the rate they're going. So I don't see this as happening anytime in the near future. But Retro would like something to work that hasn't worked. He says, I would really like it if the geocaching app would actually download the maps for offline. I thought when I saved some caches and maps, especially OpenCycle maps, for offline, which can take forever to download, they would show up. But when I went to the States and tried to access the maps without data, it would only show the caches and the black and with probably white, sorry, black and white grid.
Oh.
I was hoping to see the area map, but I don't, unless I have Wi-Fi. Then it will pull the info that is needed. And I did go back and forth with him a little bit. He is using the premium app on the iPhone 6. And to be honest, I didn't think that the iPhone app was supporting the offline maps again, because they had it and then they pulled it out. I know that the Android app had done that, but I didn't think they brought it back to iOS.
If you're doing a save from a search, it does give you 3 options. 2 options for maps. I just looked at it this evening.
But is it working? Because that's basically what he's saying, is that's broken and doesn't work. So that, if that's the case, they definitely need to either, pull that option from the menu or, just fix it. I would prefer fix it, but they've already said they're not working on the premium app. It's all going to be rolled into the intro.
The other thing I'd like to see on the intro app is for them to turn off the intro part if you're a premium member.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm a premium member. I get all the features. I don't need to know that, hey, this is a traditional cache. Let me tell you about that.
Watch this video.
Yeah, no, I'm done with that. Just move on. I went and found one today. Bing, you're getting close. I know I'm getting close. I'm moving towards the cache.
You mean you're getting hotter, you're getting hotter, you're getting colder?
Getting colder. You're going the wrong way, stupid.
Oh wow, we are going long, guys. This is great though. We've had some good conversation. Edwin, why don't you read yours?
Oh sure. The question officially is from, what needs to be changed on the Groundspeak geocaching.com website? On the website, under the URL there to go to the API developers, they state, at the current time, we are no longer accepting new requests for API access. And that is something which is blocking me and others from making new apps and making new tools for data which is stuck on the geocaching.com website.
Well, I would say they don't need to just fix that website. They need to fix the program that actually accepts it. But yeah, it's...
Well, at this moment, GeoSphere, best tool was the reason why I didn't bother making anything myself. However, GeoSphere is more or less falling apart by itself. So earlier this year, I decided I'm going to make myself my own version of GeoSphere. And yes, I have everything. I have everything I want. I have the access to the GPX files. I have the access to the Geocaching Australia website. I have access to the geocaching.com website. What I don't have is official access to the API on it. I have, based from other programs, I was able to get a set of keys and be able to use it. But it means I can't release the program because I don't have official access to it. So now I'm going from, well, I have this great tool. The rest of the world sucks a little, for them it sucks a little bit because they can't use it. And that's only because, and I've asked them multiple times from who do I need to talk to, etc. Who can I do this? And they give me the standard text which is on the website saying from, at this moment we don't accept new requests, you can use the standard tools. I'm going from, nice.
Well, what I see is the problem with this, the hazard to them, is if you have a less honest developer, we'll maybe say, you could get into another situation like CGO had been, where it resorts to scraping. And that was the whole thing, that they were banning users because they were scraping. Yeah, well, if someone wants to create tools that they can't get access to it, they're kind of forced into doing something like the scraping.
I'm wondering if geocaching.com was feeling a little bit of pressure because all these other apps are so much better than theirs.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I seem to remember, and it was a while ago that they were talking about it, but I think the situation with Project-GC and overloading the API is what probably really pushed this, because they were seeing issues with their API straining under the loads, and some issues with the API, and they wanted to make some changes to the API. They wanted to try to address some of those performance anxieties. So that's what they were talking about, but it seems like it's been a long time since they said that, and they only closed this down, what was it, about 8 months ago, you said?
No, 2012. The guy from Cashly, I spoke with him about it, asking him how the release of program which uses the live API. And he says, well, I asked for permission to use it in 2012, and months later they closed access to it.
Okay, so yeah, it's been a long time then that they've had it down, and maybe part of that is they want to make some of these other changes in the process, but it's been a long time, and that's quite honestly a big discouragement for all kinds of things. If you can't get access and your developers can't get access, you're not going to get all the cool apps like we've seen in the past.
Yep.
They don't seem to do anything quickly.
No.
As far as cool app, like Geo's, what's the one I'm thinking? Oh, GSAC, I wish they would rewrite it for Linux, and probably Mac users would love it too.
Yeah, they've already said, though, that that's not going to happen. I would be interested in having that as a web app as well, but, then it's platform independent, but that's not going to happen because that's a lot more work and a lot more expense on their part, too.
Yeah. Right. I've got eye caching on my app, and it frustrates me.
Yeah. All right. I'm thinking we're going to skip past some of these other things, but Limax, you had a kind of correction to some of the radio stuff that you had mentioned in the live Q&A during the last randomized show. Did you want to give us that clarification?
Yeah, I won't read what I have here verbatim, but I was thinking that the FRS GMRS was in the 150 megahertz band. Turns out it's actually up in the 460 megahertz band, which is just above the 70 centimeter ham radio band. And as far as Gotenna goes, I mean, it's a 150 megahertz band. I actually went out to their website, and they said, oh, yeah, it's between 150 and 156 megahertz. But what I figure is they're probably using the multi-use radio service for that, which are channelized frequencies within the VHF business band. As far as I can tell, I mean, they are very coy about what they're using for Gotenna.
Yeah, I kind of got that impression, but I was wondering if some of that isn't because they don't necessarily use the same frequencies in all territories. You know, like U.S. Has different limits than like Europe would have.
Yeah, that's true, and it's very interesting. Actually, just news item recently just came down. The was it the International Radio? I can't remember. IARU, I think, is it? They're actually going to be creating a new band on 60 meters, which has only so far been available on 5 channels, I believe it is, in the United States. They're going to make it worldwide, and we'll get the entire band. But instead of being at 50 watts effective, we only can be at, I think it's 15 watts effective. So.
All right, let's move on to the Cashly item that we had talked about a little bit previously, and this is a newer app for iPhone only. It is not universal, so it only works on the iPhone, not on iPads. It's a $5 caching app that doesn't look bad. Limax, you had a chance to look at this. Did anyone else have a chance to check it out? Everyone's shaking their head.
I have not used it.
All right. Well, Limax, what are your thoughts about the Cashly app?
Well, it's a bit frustrating. I actually tried to go out and use it today. I was going out and picking up a cache that I had a puzzle cache I had previously solved, and it wouldn't come up on the Cashly app at all. What I figure is that since I had corrected coordinates, it didn't know how to handle that, so it just dumped it. I mean, that's the only thing I could figure that was different with that. The other problem that I was really having with it is trying to get it to search around the location that I was in at the time. It seemed to be a little squirrely with that. The one thing I do like is the fact that it actually pulls my bookmark in, which of course even the official official geocaching app doesn't do that, and unless I made a pocket query for them, which is a whole nother pain in the you-know-what.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and the feature that is most missing from the apps seems to be that access to the bookmark list, because I use that religiously on geocaching, or on a Geosphere, where I create the pocket query, or not the pocket query, but the list of the solved apps, or solved geocaches. So in the app, I just go to, bookmark list, save it into the solved group, and I know which ones I have the solutions in there for. And I do the corrected coordinates too.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that so many apps just ignore, and I really wish more would do it because bookmark lists are so handy. But overall, my impression of the app is it's a nice-looking app that has a lot of promise, but it has a lot of holes right now that I don't think it's a usable caching app. It's certainly not one I would recommend people actually buy and try out.
No, I actually went back and started using the geocaching app today on the caching I was doing.
Not worth $5, you say?
No, it probably will be eventually, but this is a first release. And there's some of the things that are big holes, in my opinion, that aren't going to be holes for a lot of people. Like the GPX files can only be opened once they're in Dropbox, and it won't do a zip file. It has to be the GPX file. So I can't go to like a file that was emailed to me and click on it and open it in the app like you can with some of the other apps. That's a big issue. You can't do anything but the GPX file, and almost everything is being zipped and moved around, so that's an issue too. If you get it from geocaching.com as a pocket query, it's going to be zipped.
All these things, tell them to the Cashly author, because he wants to know these things.
Oh, absolutely. And this is the thing. This is a first version of the app. It has a lot of promise, but at this point I can't recommend people buy it. You know, it's the same. I won't recommend people buy Geosense or Geosphere rather. Geosense. Don't know what that is, but Geosphere right now because it's so long in tooth, and yes, Mark is working on that to get it back up to speed, but we don't have a good feel of when that is or what the new app is going to be like, because it is going to be a whole new app at this point. So we did the whole show on the caching apps. And I'm excited to see Cachly come out because it does have a lot of promise, and it looks like it's going to be a very easy yet powerful app once it gets a little bit more fleshed out.
I have Geosphere and the GeoCaching.com apps on mine, and for a while I used Geosphere. I don't use it much anymore. Usually, if I need to, I'll use the geocaching app.
Yep.
Well, there's a lot of people who have to do that.
There's one reason why you still want the geocaching app. The Groundspeak geocaching app, and that's because that's the one that can do the messages.
Well, yeah, that's the intro app, but I don't know many people who have it on their phones right now for more than just that messaging.
I have it just for the messages.
Yeah, if you have the premium app works better at just about everything. But I have to say, it's still an awful experience for the most of us cachers to use that intro app. However, it's come so far since they released this version 3, I think it is, that I do have hope now that it will actually be a good app in version 4 that we can use as everyday cachers. Not that it's going to be anything to replace the Geospheres or the Cache Senses or any of these more powerful apps, but it's going to be a usable replacement for the premium app once they actually get it done. I don't think that's going to be even 2016. We'll have to see. All right, well, let's have a little bit of fun before we leave. And Edwin, this was actually yours. Have you ever lied about or lied that you are geocaching? And how did this question come up? Or is it not a safe question to be talking about right now?
Well, considering that the other 3 people in the house are sitting around me, I'm more than happy to say it. So the thing is, the question was from, have you ever lied about that you're geocaching? I once left the house angry with my kids because they didn't want to go with me anywhere and went for a walk, which went right past a water tower with a trick point on it. At that moment, so I was standing there with the geocaching app in my hand, trying to locate the right position, and I get a call from home with a cheery voice going from, "How's your geocaching going?" To which I promptly said, which is technically correct, "I'm not geocaching."
Nice.
All right, Carrot Killer, how about you?
Me?
Yeah. Oh. Have you ever lied about going out geocaching?
Of course I have. I'm a married man after all.
Lied about geocaching and having money in your wallet, right?
Yeah.
All right, Limax?
I'm not sure if I have actually lied about it. I have omitted the fact that that's what I was doing at the time. So I'm just out and about. But I don't think I've actually... I think if I've been asked the direct question, I do say yes. But so I think it's more of a sin of omission for me.
Understandable.
Hear no evil, say no evil.
Yeah. All right, Subway Mark, what about yours?
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same thing. If she asks, I'll probably tell her, but I usually don't. I mean, on the way home from work today, I actually left a lot earlier than she knows, because I did some geocaches on the way and placed geocaches.
Oh.
Ooh, I gotta get down to Portland.
Yeah.
All right, Wooden Radio, what's your answer to that one?
I can't think really that I have, but I have kind of stretched one example, it was before I met Chris. Girlfriend and I were going to go for a bike ride, and that was the weekend that geocaching was down because of the, what was it, a flood in the server facility?
Yeah, I think that was a
July
flood
fire?
and a fire.
Anyway. So I said, okay, we're just going to go for a bike ride. I didn't even bring the GPS with me. We went on the bike ride, and about 12 miles into the ride, we passed a couple standing on one guy standing on the side of the trail holding two bicycles as his other, I don't know whether it's significant or not, came up and says, there's a geocache down there. I said, well, are you geocachers? I said, no, but we saw one. I just give me a hint. No, we weren't out geocaching, but, take advantage of it.
All right, Chris, yours?
I plead the fifth.
Oh, you've done it 5 times?
I have to agree with all of you. I don't think I've ever actually lied saying, no, I wasn't geocaching. However, when the errands are taking an hour going up to the store that's 5 minutes away, it's pretty obvious what I'm doing. So
That's because she knows. She knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I've done the looking for an excuse to go to the store so I can run out and do a geocache or Ingress or whatever, but I don't think I've ever lied. But then again, my partners have always been into geocaching, so it wouldn't have been a matter of...
Good anyway, they could look up on your geocaching account and look at your recent logs.
They know what you're doing.
And they would have been mad that I didn't take them along to find a geocache.
Yeah, but there are times, I've just last night, I think it was, I dropped a child off somewhere. I thought,
Just randomly dropped them?
Yeah, I don't know where, I don't know why.
And was it your child?
They came back. And I think I was taking my daughter to work.
But you're not sure.
Came back through. Yeah, I didn't matter. I'm taking kids everywhere. I don't remember which one this is. Came back through a Ingress farm. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pull over here for a few minutes, and 15 minutes later, it's like I should probably get home. So
yeah, I think we've all done that. If nothing else, the one more itis.
Yeah, one more. It could be Ingress, like you said. It could be Munzie. It could be geocaching. It doesn't matter. It's just, I'm out and about. I don't have anybody with me. I could stop here, and nobody would go, well, what are you doing? Come on, I don't have time for this.
All right, well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us for the last show of 2015 and the first show of 2016. It kind of fits for both.
True.
So, 2016 is going to happen. Edwin's already there.
Yep, and there's no meteors and brimstone falling from the sky, so I think it's safe for you guys to come here too.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll into 2016, kicking and screaming. Didn't we just come into 2015, or does that sound like an old guy?
That sounds like an old guy.
You
That
were
was
listening
1
to
year
our
ago.
old podcast.
Oh yeah. Basically the same podcast we're doing now.
Just a reminder that you guys need to find a cache on the 31st to get the souvenir for the goodbye to 2015.
Yep. I found 2 today, 2 DNFs, and tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, a breakfast. There's going to be a kickoff for a trail, followed by a CETO.
Oh, very nice.
I get at least 2 tomorrow, and plus whatever I find on the trail.
There are caches just laying on a trail?
It's a geo trail that they're called, what is that? A biohazard geo trail.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Nothing will be published till tomorrow morning during the breakfast.
Nice. Yeah, that's kind of what the event that I'm going to tomorrow, and there is going to be the souvenir for that. And that's a conversation that we probably should get into at a different time, is whether souvenirs are helping or hurting and all that kind of stuff, because it definitely has changed the game.
Well, Daryl, you and I had a competition last, what was it, Friday? You were doing your Periscope. I was doing a Periscope of a meet and greet, which was a gift swap. Drop off coordinates to a cache that you have placed somewhere for somebody to take. A container.
Oh, that sounds like fun. That might be an idea I have to steal sometime.
I ended up getting an ammo can.
Very nice.
One that I left was an evil nano.
There. Ammo can for a nano.
Yeah, it wasn't a straight swap. It's sort of a gift exchange.
Yeah.
All right. We do have to announce who won the live contest for that. What is it? The Southern Hemisphere Southern Hemisphere Planisphere coin. That's a lot more challenging to say than I thought it was. From
no challenges.
Yeah, no challenges now. It's too late, and I still have an hour and a half before 2016, and gotta get the show.
We'll stay on here with you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Just what he wants.
Yeah. Anyway, so the winner is actually Susan 225, and I think she's a new. Oh yeah, she is a new listener. She says she hasn't listened to episode 157 yet, but binge listening to episodes of GeoGearHeads lately.
That's good. Ooh,
we don't suggest that for health reasons, but we certainly support going back and listening to past episodes.
Good binge.
I can't show mine on.
That was a barley wine.
All right, so Chris, what is the next question that someone can actually win a prize?
Well, Daryl, we're doing something different for 2016 just because, well, it's a new year. Now, we've already mentioned that we're not doing the weekly questions in 2016, but rather questions with a little more lead time for you to think about and submit your valuable opinions to shape and share the shows. So the first of those is going to be on logging, and we're not talking about cutting down trees. We really want to know how you log your finds online. Are you keeping paper notes? Are you logging in the field? Only logging the first to finds online? Maybe you're months behind in actually logging your finds. Let us know by sending an email to geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com with the subject, question 212. Now, for a bonus entry, you can tell us in your very own voice by calling the voicemail line at 206-350-3647, or you can email that audio file to geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com. Either way, include your geocaching.com screen name and what region you're from. That could be your city, state, province, country, whatever you want to choose, however specific you want to be, so we get a little idea where you consider your home region. From all those entries, we'll randomly select one to receive a pack of logs from coinsandpins.com. Whether we use your comment on the show or not. So they need to be in by Monday, January 18th at 6 p.m. Pacific, that's 9 p.m. Eastern, to be included in that drawing. So get those in to 206-350-3647 or email geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com with the subject question 212 by January 28th.
And we've got a whole bunch of exciting shows coming up next week. We're going to be doing smartphone caching with Scott and Jesse, who I was just out geocaching with. And we're going to be talking about some of the tips and tricks for smartphone caching. And Chris, neither one of them had a GPS. In fact, I didn't have a GPS with me when we went on geocaching day. It was all smartphone caching. Wow. Even though we all tried to Periscope. And I will note that Jesse tried as well. But unfortunately, Periscope kept crashing on her S5.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, no, I was there where it did. She was not happy about that. January 14th is going to be episode 211, and we're going to be having DeBear on to talk about Travelers. Then, of course, 212 on January 21st is going to be that logging episode. And DeBear and GS Slink from GS Slinky Mommy, is that what it is?
G-Slink and Slinky Mama.
Slinky, okay. Gary from Cash and Release is going to be joining us for that discussion too. And that's why we really want all of that feedback, because we've been hearing from a lot of people that they're just not logging caches online, or a lot of complaints too about people who are doing those short ones. So we want to get into that a little bit on that show. And then our next randomized show, XLII.
That's XL2.
Yes, XL2. It's a double XL. No, it's not a double XL. It's just okay. Whatever. We'll figure out something funny before that show, hopefully. Well, that's going to be on the 28th. Yeah. Well, that's exactly what I was thinking, but it's not.
Not quite.
It's Roman numeral squared. What if they're short eyes?
Ooh, what if that's actually an 11? Ooh. It's extra large to the 11th power.
Wow.
Wow, that would be really big.
Wow.
All right. In any case, that's
like an
going to be on the. Oh, no, thank you. We definitely don't want an earthquake. That's going to be on the 28th for episode 213.
So make sure you check the Cachemaniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes from this and all our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners. So leave us feedback by calling 206-350-3647, by emailing GeoGearHeads at cachemaniacs.com, or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cachemaniac shows coming, so please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cachemaniac shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Umpenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. It shows copyright 2015, for the last time, by Daryl Wattenberg, all rights reserved.
Cash with a Cachemaniac.